All right, ladies and gentlemen, so here's how we're going to do this on this round. We are going to do this one online, not only to give you guys some additional prep time, but also to lean into studying in a different way and prepping yourself to make sure you're ready for the actual quiz. You see here, this one's going to have some meat to it. There will be some work that you need to follow along with. We've got some A, B's, and C's. So let's follow along and get started on this. So, um, on problem number one, the big thing that we need to do is write a solution to the systems of equations. Now, we've covered a couple of methods to use when we're solving these systems. In this case, I see that I've got a negative 20y and a plus 4y, and I know that I can get this plus 4y into a plus 20y. Remember, when we're using the elimination method, what that means is that we are literally eliminating a variable so that we can solve one variable within this system. Okay, so we're going to eliminate y and we're going to solve for x. So in class, if you were here, what we did is we wrote out both linear equations in our system. 5x plus 4y equals 18. And in order to get this to be able to eliminate our negative 20y, we got to make this a positive 20y. So in order to do that, I got to multiply this entire equation by 5. Remember, if you don't multiply it by the same amount the whole way through, then you've completely changed the problem. So I'm going to distribute this to every single term in my parentheses. So I now have negative 6x minus 20y equals 5. And when I distribute, I'm going to have a positive 25x plus 20y, sorry, and multiplying 18 times 5, that's going to be 90. I will tell you guys this too, there are some bigger numbers on this quiz, so I will let you use a calculator. So if you want to practice with that, I'm totally fine. Okay, so now whenever I'm eliminating, I'm going to add my terms together, okay? So negative 6 plus 25x is 19x minus 20y plus 20y, that goes away, and I'm left with equals 95. Please be careful that if you are um, if you are eliminating and you have positives and negatives, to pay attention to that, okay? So in order to get rid of the 19x, I'm going to divide by 19, divide by 19. So x is going to equal 5. Okay, so I'm going to put 5 where x is, but now I need to figure out what y is. So in order to do that, now I need to substitute x into one of these equations so that then I can solve. Okay, I'm going to actually substitute it into this one. Remember, if you're substituting it into the bottom one, you got to bring it back up to the original equation. So I'm going to substitute negative 6x minus 20y equals 5. So where x is, I got to put 5. So negative 6 times 5 minus 20y equals 5. This gives me a negative 30 minus 20y equals 5. In order to get the negative 30 on the other side, I have to add. So we're going into our two-step equations. So I'm left with negative 20y equals 35. Don't let this freak you out, guys. Sometimes in this kind of math, you're going to get fractions, okay? So in order to get rid of the negative 20, I divide by negative 20, divide by negative 20. I notice here that this is not reduced, so I need to reduce it. And in order to do that, I'm going to divide both numbers by 5. So this is going to give me y equaling, see how much room I need here? Y is going to equal 7 over 4, sorry, 7 over 4, and it's a negative 7 over 4. So if I go all the way back up to the top, Sorry, my sidebar is being a little finicky. We're going to have to just keep going back and forth here. I know that my solution is going to be 5 and negative 7 fourths. So what that means is that when I graph this system, this is going to be the point that will be the solution where both lines cross. Okay, so if you have any questions or you have some pause or hesitation, go back in the recording so that you can make sure you've got it all together for this quiz. Okay, now we're going to move on to problem number 2. There are 2 parts on this, so it will take a little bit of time. Notice how I've got the system here and just the graph. So in order to know what we need to graph, we need to solve for each one of these equations. And when we're graphing, we got to remember that we have to turn them into our Holy Grail equation, okay? It's the only way we're going to be able to know where to put the y-intercept and to graph the slope. So for my first equation, I have 7x plus 2y equals 14. I got to get this to y equals mx plus b, so that x has to come over on the other side. 2y equals negative 7x plus 14. Now I'm going to divide by 2, and I have to do it on all values. So I've got y equals negative 7 over 2x plus 7. This is going to tell me my slope, negative 7 over 2, and this is going to tell me my y-intercept, which is at 7. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph this one so we just have that knocked out and out of the way. So I'm going to turn this to dark green. I've got 7 as my y-intercept. And if I'm going to follow the slope, that means I got to go down 7, which is going to bring me to 0, and over 2. I know it's negative slope, so it's going to go in the direction of upper left to lower right. And if I went down 7 again, that would be at negative 7, and then at positive 4. Okay, so be gracious to me on this. I'm working on a notepad, and I am not a computer. Okay, so it's because I'm leaning my hand on my pad. Let's try that again. Hey, Mr. Bungy, not bad at all if I do say so myself. And now I'm going to solve for the second part of our equation. So I now have to go back to my other equation in the system. So that is going to be 5x plus 4y equals 20. So I got to get the x on the other side to get to our Holy Grail equation. 4y equals negative 5x plus 20. So now I got to divide 4 on all terms in order to keep it in the same equation and to get it into that Holy Grail. So I'm going to have y equals negative 5 fourths x plus 5. Okay, so I'm going to start at my y-intercept of, go to red here. So my y-intercept is going to be at positive 5, and I'm going to go down 5, which is going to give me to 0, and over 4. And I'm going to go down 5, so negative 5, and over 4 is going to put me at 8. And again, bear with me, I am not a computer, but I am going to draw my, I don't know what is going on here. Let's try again. So I'm going to draw my line. Okay, so that one was pretty bad. But what you're getting here, I don't know why this is happening on my pen, but we have the red line meeting at the green line, and it's going to be somewhere at that point. Okay, so it's really important that you graph both of these. And when you're on Eureka, it'll be pretty simple. You just put 2 points in, and then it will graph it on the line for you or on the coordinate grid. So just make sure that you're accurately plotting those points because it will count you off if you don't do it correctly. Okay, So now we're on part 2. And what we have to do for part 2 is we have to now actually find the solution. So it's one thing to graph it. It's another thing to find the solution. And on this one, it says write the values to the nearest tenth. So what that tells you is we're probably going to get some nasty numbers here. That's okay because you guys can use a calculator to get as close to the nearest tenth as possible. So in order to find the solution, we have to get these two linear equations into a place where we can solve for just one variable. So what I really like about this quiz is it really sticks with elimination method, because what I notice here is if I have a plus 2y and a plus 4y, if this 2y turns into a negative 4y, then I cancel out my y's. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to multiply everything by -2. And what that's going to do is create the possibility for us to eliminate the y's. Okay, so I'm going to just move it over here. When I multiply and do the distributive, I've got -14x. And that's going to be minus 4y equals -28. Okay, and so then I'm going to have 5x plus 4y equals 20. I'll also put this answer key that I have up on Schoology, but I don't want you just going straight to that. Let's combine everything together with the blank one that I give you in class. Okay, so again, we're adding. So that means this negative and positive is going to be our integer rules for adding. Okay, -14 plus 5 gives me a -9x. Okay, and then my y's are going to cancel, and I'm left with -8. Okay, so when I divide by -9 and divide by -9, what I am left with is that x equals a positive 8/9. Now, if you did this in your calculator, which I'll let you use on the quiz, if you did this on your calculator, you would get 0.088 repeating. It's asking us to round to the nearest tenth, so this 8 is going to bring this up to 0.9. So my x value is 0.9. Now, remember, in order to get y, we need to substitute x into one of these two equations so that we can solve for y. So I'm going to choose this second equation to substitute in. So 5x plus 4y equals 20. This is going to get nasty, so because we're working with a fraction here. So now I've got 5, and in parentheses, it's going to be 8/9 plus 4y equals 20. When I do 5 times 8/9, that's the same as 40/9 plus 4y equals 20. Okay, so I'm going to continue to roll through. In order to get this minus 40/9 to the other side, I have to subtract by 40/9. Subtract by 40/9. Now, the easiest way to do this is if we change 20ths into 9. So if I did that, that means that I need to multiply 9 by 20, which means that this is going to be 189ths. So I'm left with 4y equals, when I take away 49ths, that's going to be 140/9. I know this is getting nasty, but just because it is doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. So now I'm going to divide by 4, but if I divide by 4 here, that's really like multiplying by 1/4. So what I like doing in fractions is cross canceling. 4 can actually go into 140, so that means it's 1 here. And then if I do 35, that's going to get me back to 140. So when I multiply across, I know y equals 35/9. If you were to put that in your calculator, you would get 3.88 repeating. Remember, we're going to the nearest tenth, so then this would be about 3.9. So I know my y value is 3.9. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you decide to skirt around the work on this, good luck. I know that you are getting in the habit of asking the reasons why we have to do all that work, and I'm hoping that a part A like this one before, as it's loading, there's work there with proper graphing that doesn't look like chicken scratch, and then part B here, there's just a lot of work to find the actual solution. So you need to make sure you put the effort in to be able to get that problem accurate. Now we go to problem 3, and it's not so terrible, okay? So stay with me here, all right? Number 3 says a t-shirt company sells basic t-shirts and graphic t-shirts. That's important to know. So I've got basic t-shirts and graphic t-shirts. It receives orders from 2 different customers who are each charged the same price t-shirt. So customer A pays $874 for 11 basic and 36 graphic. And customer B pays $474 for 21 basic and 9 graphic. The cool thing about this problem is it tells us what the variable is going to be. So basic t-shirts are X and graphic t-shirts are Y. Okay, so now all we're doing is we're writing these in a system, a system of linear equations, because they have to equal the prices that they paid. So if I'm going to work with customer A, they have 11 basic t-shirts. Now remember, basic is represented by X. That's going to be 11X plus 36 graphics. So 36 and graphic is Y. And it has to equal $874. Okay. So we have 874. Customer B ordered 21 basic t-shirts. Remember, basic is represented by X, and they ordered 9 graphic because that is represented by Y, and I'm going to change this to a clean 874. And in the problem, it said that they paid $474 for the amount. Now, if you look at this, it's then pretty simple to see which option that works with, and that would be option A. What I want you, I'm sorry, not option A, Mr. Bungie. Let's try that again. Let's match it right away. Option B. Now, here's the thing. A and B look exactly the same, except they flip the total cost at the end. C and D are flips of A and B. So we really got to make sure we're aligning this to the correct solution. And again, I just need to take a little bit more time. Okay, so that's 3. And there we go, part B. Is the next piece for this one. So part A is not terrible. Actually, part B is not too bad either, but you're probably going to need to use a calculator for this one because the numbers get quite large. So I'm going to rewrite our system of equations again. So we have 11x plus 36y equals 874. And then 21x plus 9y equals 474. Now it's asking us to figure out how many basic and graphic t-shirts they bought with this system. Okay, so this is going to be the point at which it creates a point of a solution for both equations. Okay, so in order to do this, again, elimination method is what they have set up. In order to get rid of this 36y, I'm going to multiply my bottom numbers by a -4. So this now becomes 11x plus 36y equals 874. And my bottom numbers are -84x plus, plus a -36y equals, and when I did the math on the side, that equaled -1,896. Okay, so when I eliminate, this is now going to become -73x. My y's are gone, and that's going to equal a -1,022. Now that's a good thing because if I'm going to divide by a negative, it's going to create a positive number, which is good because we got to have positive t-shirts, okay? So I'm going to divide by -73 on both sides. So x, after I do that division, is going to equal a positive 14. Awesome. Now, so I know that I've paid for 14 basic t-shirts because remember, x is our basic t-shirts. Now, I need to then substitute back in. If you notice, on problems 1, 2, and 3, we all have a pattern where we're going in and solving. So what I'm hoping is with this practice, it should allow 1, 2, and 3 to not be so hard outside of maybe some calculations, okay? So now I'm going to choose to substitute it into the top linear equation. So I've got 11 times 14 plus 36y equals 874. My next line is going to be 154 plus 36y equals 874. In order to get the 154 on the other side, I have to subtract. So 36y equals 720. When I divide that by 36 on both sides, it takes two 36s to get to 72, and we have a 0 on the end, so I know that y is going to equal 20, and y is represented by our graphic t-shirts. Okay, so we've got the first three problems done. We got two more left to do. We have number 4. Now, if you're working on the quiz tomorrow, if you're working on the practice quiz video tomorrow, we haven't done things with problems number 4 and number 5 yet. So you're just going to have to wait because those lessons are coming on Tuesday and Wednesday. But we can get started on it. We are going to be graphing this system of linear inequalities. So remember, they're inequalities because of the symbols in between. But referring back to this Holy Grail equation will allow us to still graph it and then figure out our solutions. If you see here, when we did one inequality, we shaded one part of it, but now that we've got two, we're gonna have to shade two pieces. Okay, so my first inequality, let's do it over here. My first inequality is y is greater than -6 plus 5x. We're actually using some of our knowledge and skills from the first topic to be able to do things here. Okay, so if I'm gonna compare it to the equal sign, I gotta get this in that order. So y is greater than 5x minus 6. If you notice this equation right here, sorry, inequality looks very similar to our Holy Grail equation. So since I have it looking like that, I'm gonna choose a point that allows me to test so that I know where if it is an option or a solution for this inequality. It must be an option in order to shade that part. So remember, guys, in class I said 0, 0 is the best point because it makes it super simple. So I'm going to put 0 is greater than 5 times 0 minus 6. 0 is greater than -6. That's a true statement. So that means for our first inequality, which by the way, we've got a -6. So this one right here, this line is the graph line of y is greater than -6 plus 5x. So if 0, 0 is included on this one, then that means that everything on the left side of that line is going to be a solution. So I'm going to put my coloring range here, okay? And now I've got to do the second inequality to know where the pieces cross so that I know those are my solutions. So let's do my second inequality here. I've got 10y is less than -4x plus 3. This is almost in our Holy Grail equation. We just have to divide 10 on every term in order to know our inequality that we're finding a test solution for. So I've got -4 x plus 3 If you want to make that -2/5, you can. But again, we're going to test with 0, 0 because we can. It's on the bottom side of that inequality graph, which is this one right here. Okay, so this is our 10y is less than -4x plus 3. Okay, so if I'm going to test that, then that means that I'm going to test it with 0 is less than -4 times 0 plus 3 0 is less than 3/10. That's a true statement. So that means that 0, 0, this point right here, is included in both. So that means if I am going to represent both solutions that are both solution sets where I go in the opposite direction and it overlaps in the two regions is going to be my solution set. So if you see here, these two have, or these boundary lines here include both of them on the correct side of both lines. So what that means is region C would be the region that I would circle that has our solutions to this inequality system. Okay, again, if you need to go back, you can always do that. I'm going to give you tomorrow and Wednesday to be able to do that. So if you've got questions, you can bring them in on Wednesday, except for 4 and 5, because we're going to do work with that in class. Okay, guys, 5A, B, and C. We got some work we got to do here. Some parts are easier than others, so let's get rocking on this. Okay, so problem 5, part A, asks us to identify the system here that represents this problem, okay? So Mrs. Allen is buying bushes and trees. The bushes are $10 each, and the trees are $30 each. She also has, oh, this is important, we got X bushes and Y trees, so X equals our bushes and Y equals our trees, and she has a budget of $300. So what I'm going to do is use this information to create an inequality, okay? So I know that the bushes are $10 and bushes are represented by X, and I know that the trees are $30 and the problem says they are represented by Y, and Mrs. Allen cannot go over $300, but I want us to understand that we can equal it because that's still within the budget. Okay, so I'm just going to label these pieces. So 10 is the cost of the bush. X is the number of bushes. 30 is the cost of our trees. Y is the number of trees. This symbol means that she has a budget, so it must be less than the budget or equal to the budget, because then she's still within what she wants to spend. And the budget is $300. So the nice thing about that is now we have our inequality, okay? We look at this inequality, we look and see that the ones that align with this inequality written piece, the only one that aligns is A. So we know that A is going to be our answer, but let's take a look at these two because they're in every single option as well. What I want us to understand is that the reason why those are included is because both X and Y must be greater than or equal to 0, because it can be 0. I could buy 0 trees, but I can't buy negative trees. So that's why it has to be greater than or equal. That's why it's included in every option. So if you understand why that's there, then really all you're doing is focusing on the bottom inequality. And I know that's kind of funky because we got 3 in a system, but you can have as many as you want in a system to be able to graph and get close to a solution that works for your entire situation. Okay, so that's part A. On part B, now what we are doing is we're going to watch Mr. Bunge's chicken scratch on graphing, and we are going to graph what we just did. Okay, so we have 3 pieces we have to graph. We have to graph that X is greater than or equal to 0, Y is greater than or equal to 0, and 10X plus 30Y is less than or equal to 300. Okay, so the first two aren't too terrible because Y is right here. So I'm going to draw a line through Y. Okay, this is our Y equal, or I'm sorry, Y is greater than or equal to 0, which means that if it's greater than or equal to 0, it's going to be on the right side of this line. But we have another constraint here. So let's add that before we do any shading, okay? So if I've got x is greater than 0, then I'm going to draw a line through my x-axis. This is x is greater than or equal to 0. And so if I'm looking at greater than both of these, then I know that my solution set is going to live somewhere on this side. Okay, so now we've got a third one that we have to graph, and remember, we're using our Holy Grail equation to help us get there. We got to put it as in this version to be able to graph it. So in order to get the x on the other side, I'm going to subtract 10x. 30y is less than or equal to negative 10x plus 300. Divide every term by 30. And I'm left with y is less than or equal to negative 1/3 x plus 10. Okay, so the thing we just have to be careful with is identifying the fact that our numbers on our graph go up by tens. So my 10 is actually right here, and I'm going down by 1 to 3. Now this is the slope of the graph we have. So it's not just 1 and then a tiny 3. We actually go down a full graphing square, and we go over 3. We go down and we go over 3. And so my line that I'm going to create is right here. Now again, we're going to test, okay? We're going to test it. And again, guys, we got 0, 0 that is within our crossing. So I don't want to use that because it's right on the edge. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find something that you see how my line has crossed between both that might live in here, because that means I'm either going to be in the triangle or I'm going to be outside this little triangle. So I'm going to test 5, 5. Okay, so 5 is less than or equal to negative 1/3 times 5 plus 10. 5 is less than or equal to negative 5/3 plus 10. This is the same thing as negative 1 2/3. 5 is less than or equal to negative 1 2/3 plus 10. And so when I do that subtraction, 5 is less than or equal to 8 1/3. That is a true statement. 8 1/3 is greater than or equal to 5. So what that tells me is the solutions that are a part of this triple system of inequalities is the inside part of our triangle. So I'm not quite sure how that will end up graphing on Eureka, but at least we know those are the solutions included with this inequality. So now we move to part C, okay? And on part C, we're going to use the graph to help us. So I am going to be going back between C and B, so bear with me, okay? The first thing says that the point 0, 0 satisfies the system so that it works. That's what that means. And is included in the solution set. So what that means is Mrs. Allen can buy 0 bushes and 0 trees. So let's go back to our other one. If we look at 0, 0, if I plug in 0 for my bushes and 0 for my trees, what I'm hoping that you realize is that is less than or equal to the budget. And it also satisfies the fact that we can still buy 0 trees and bushes because that's something that made it true. So this is a true statement. The next one says the point with our decimals here satisfies the system of inequalities, but is not included in the solution set. So Mrs. Allen cannot buy 5.75 bushes and 5.25 trees. So let's go back to our graph. If we look at 5.75, that's about right here, and 5.25, it's about right here in our triangle. So is it a part of the solution set? Yes. But since we're applying it to trees, she cannot buy 3/4 of a bush and 1/4 of a tree. So since this says that it is part of our solution set, but that she can't do it, it makes it a true statement. Okay, let's look at our last one. The point 7, 2.5 is in the solution set, and that means that she can buy that amount of bushes and trees. So let's take a look at our solutions. We got 7, which is about here, and 2.5, which is here. So it does land in our solution set. But guys, you can't buy half a tree. Like you could say it's a baby tree that you want to grow, but that's not what Mrs. Allen is doing. She wants a full tree. She's ready for shade, okay? So since this says that she can buy it, but we can't because we have a decimal, that becomes a false statement. Okay, so this is our practice quiz. I highly encourage you to break it up into 1 through 3 and maybe 4 through 5 after we do our 2 days in class. This will be up on our YouTube channel tomorrow, and you will get blank versions of this tomorrow as well. All right, well, I hope you guys have good studying. Make sure you take your time. This is our first one that you're doing without me doing it in class. So good luck, study hard, and we will test this out on Thursday. Peace.